Okay. All right.
Off to a cracking good start.
I'm concerned about this chair.
Yeah, there are different chairs that you could use.
Less noisy chairs, perhaps? But none quite as comfy, I don't think.
Yeah, just pollute the audio for your your lumbar.
Yeah, I think it's mostly... No, it is going to do it every time. I'm gonna call this thing the Untitled Summer Podcast. That's what it's gonna be the whole time.
Fantastic.
Its title will actually just be working title.
Yeah, why not? A title as unpolished as the podcast.
One camera. We don't have anybody to do any other cameras. All right.
We did this on a random Thursday afternoon.
Yes.
Do we address the camera at all? Like, is there ever a time where...
I'm trying to think of what I tell it. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Untitled Summer Podcast.
Sure.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Untitled Summer Podcast.
Welcome to whatever this is.
Whatever this is. welcome to whatever this is.
That's the name of the podcast, whatever this is. But
is that trademarked? Are we good to do that?
I have no idea. I didn't check the patent on a name before I came down here.
There's no patents on...
Well, there is now.
It is! It's a bi-monthly podcast.
Called whatever this is?
Yes!
Yeah.
How about Untitled? Is there such a thing as an untitled...
Probably.
Untitled podcast? Because that seems kind of...
Kendrick Lamar used that as an album name, so I imagine somebody used it for a podcast name. It's because everyone with their iPhone is making a podcast, and they're like, I got a great name for it.
The Untitled Podcast. There is literally such a thing as the Untitled Podcast.
Is there the Untitled Summer Podcast?
No. Very good. So welcome, everybody, to the Untitled Summer Podcast. I'm joined by my brother, Dixon.
Hello.
So, Dixon, AI.
AI.
What's up with that?
Probably a lot of things. But if you want specifically what is up with it, I think that it's a thing that people use a lot more than they did, and that some people don't understand and are kind of freaked out about.
Who are the people that don't understand it and are freaked out?
I hate to be blunt with it, but it's probably older people. And that's not to say that like every old person is like technologically uninclined, but it's kind of this. I mean, they're in like the same bracket as, I don't know. They're in the same bracket of the people that are like more easily scammed by like suspicious links that are in text messages or emails or whatever. So it's also something that they didn't grow up with, right? So like the seniors nowadays of like the people that are in their 80s or something were born in like the 1940s, if I'm doing my math right, somewhere around there.
Yeah, the baby boomers.
Yeah, they didn't grow up with this. Like AI was not even really a thing whenever they were existing. They were just kind of I mean, it also, I think it's confusing to everyone because it just came so fast, and it kind of it almost seems to like double its complexity every time you look at it, just because you're not keeping pace with it. So I think everyone is kind of confused, but the people that were not even technologically inclined in the first place are probably more confused by it. But even with that, there's still this like brazen attitude of let's charge forward and use it for everything ever, which I think, if you don't have a full understanding of it, is an odd choice to make.
I heard this idea that young people are kind of just as they're kind of just as stumbling around in the dark as anybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens, though, that being brought up in a time when technology was already kind of starting its ridiculously quick progression throughout the years, that they're just kind of they're a lot more with it.
I think that it might give them a confidence that, like, I've grown up in an era of technology, so I'm more equipped to handle this than somebody who grew up with a rotary phone, right? There's no possible way that you could understand this. But I think both, like, somebody in their 20s and somebody in their 80s are both, like, equally not uneducated, but, like, not equipped to deal with it fully.
Confidence is an interesting word. I don't think it's the wrong word either.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an interesting word because I think that confidence and competence, because I think that, well, and I think they're related.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are definitely some things that we can see that people who grew up in like an age of like huge technological advancement don't have as much competency in areas that maybe used to be big deals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, like I always look at like the trend lines where the world is actually like losing attention span, memory retention, IQ points,
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of stuff, which, it's correlation, not causation, but it is interesting that at the same time is we're losing competency
Mm-hmm.
as the human race. AI is also like going up, which has the most substantial amount of information of anything,
Yeah.
anything anywhere. Yeah.
It's also kind of not AI, really, because AI is like and this is just stuff that I've heard, not an expert, but AI is like an artificial intelligence.
It should go without saying that we're not experts.
Not experts. But AI is an artificial intelligence that is like a synthesized thing that was made by mankind, but is removed from it entirely because it's thinking on its own. Its thought process is artificially its intelligence. Like, it's its own thing. I think what people are calling AI is more of like a generative intelligence,
Right.
which is, it's more of just kind of like a really complex search engine in a lot of ways. Like, you ask, never use ChatGPT, but from experiences that I've seen of people using ChatGPT, it's pulling stuff from the internet, and it's not actually pulling it from any kind of capacity to think. It's just pulling it because it's there.
Yeah.
And that's how it gets its answer.
No, the idea right now, and what's being bet on by a lot of people, is a technological singularity,
Mm-hmm.
which is what happens when the artificial intelligence continuously improves itself without maintenance from like an outside force.
Mm-hmm.
So that positive self-reinforcement can be anything, but I think the hope is that it starts coming up with things that right now we haven't even come up with, which is one of the biggest problems with generative AI, is that it's limited in its ability to help you because the only thing it can tell you is what it knows about.
Mm-hmm.
It's very possible to ask an AI, hey, how did you come up with this? And they're just like, oh, well, this, and this study,
Mm-hmm.
right? Based off of what I have been given at some point in time. Or it'll be like I'm taking a guess based off of I've searched the internet, and based off of what I've seen everybody on the internet say about XYZ phenomenon, this is my best guess. Um, it doesn't it doesn't it doesn't actually do any kind of robust science or any robust like mathematical calculation about any of that.
Hmm.
All it's doing is looking for people who have done that, and it's trying to tell you this is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Um, so in that sense, it's it's less scary because it really is more like a Google search than
Hmm.
anything else. A very helpful one. Um, but I think part of the really big breakthrough that is that is a potential um, with AI development is developing some kind of technological singularity where the thing becomes um, completely self-sustaining and can create its own information, and it can figure out the secrets of the universe for us, and it's going to be wonderful and amazing, and it will not end up like any sci-fi movie where the robots take over the world.
Hmm.
That won't happen. That won't happen. There won't be anything like that. I don't think.
Yeah. That guarantee went out the window rather quickly, but
Well, I've seen a lot of. I've seen a lot of sci-fi movies where robots take over the world.
mhm.
Generally, we don't make a good case for ourselves when the robots ask itself, should we keep humanity around? Generally, we don't make a good case for ourselves. So, you know.
I do think that AI or generative intelligences or whatever we're calling them are are dangerous whenever people use them really irresponsibly, and not irresponsibly in like, because I mean there are ways that you shouldn't use them, like academically don't use them to write a paper, but the I think in like a creative space, using something that isn't your thoughts and is just like a Frankenstein monster of all other people's thoughts, of having it generate like a poem or a story or a artwork, is like the worst thing that you could do. And I hate people. Hate's a strong word. I have a strong hate for it. That like you can't use that for a creative thing,
Yeah.
because one, you're robbing yourself of having actually like learned how to do that, because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, you make a guitar song, therefore I don't have to learn how to play guitar. And that's like a very common thing of humans are lazy. They really like the easiest way,
Right.
right? Like efficiency, clever laziness. We just want the least amount of effort that we have to give to a task,
Yeah.
which I mean it works even outside of AI, where it's like once you use like a riding mower, you don't want to go back to a pushing mower
Well,
because
I can tell you that no one here is just walking everywhere.
mhm,
Maybe like maybe a few very disciplined people, but by and large, that is um, we have not designed things to work well without the assistance of motor vehicles,
mhm,
um, which you know that is that makes everyone's lives hugely easier because you can kind of sit and not not use that much energy getting from place to place. Not to mention how much stuff you can store in it, which you wouldn't just be able to fit like on your person and just walk around with all of it.
mhm.
So I think that, like I said, correlation, not causation. But I think you bring up a good point about using AI and then not really having to do any of the critical thinking or hard learning uh, that other people have had to do in the past. Um, which, again, makes sense why the theory that someone smarter than me came up with, that the reason people are becoming less intelligent is because of a reliance on things like AI, but also the trend was starting before AI. AI is kind of like the latest trend in us engineering a kind of super convenient piece of technology that unfortunately is solving one of the things that we hate the most, which is not knowing things when we would prefer to know them. Or, and also kind of telling us everything there is to know about that thing the instant we want to know about that thing. Which is admittedly very handy, but it's not how you develop deeper thought processes. Just like with that example of using a car to get everywhere as opposed to walking everywhere. Your brain can also be kind of conditioned by what you do and what you don't do. And using AI for schoolwork is kind of like using a car to get everywhere. It's super fast and it's super convenient, and boy, you barely even have to try. But you don't want to get in a situation where you become over reliant on that, because that could seriously hurt. In the metaphor about walking and using a car, that's a physical health thing, but over reliance on AI and not developing critical thinking skills, that's a mental problem.
Yeah. Well, I've always there and then this goes back to the creative thing again, but I've seen a lot of people that are like endlessly spewing out creative things, and it's because of AI, and people don't realize it's because of AI until it goes away. Like there was one guy who was he was coming up with a bunch of like rhymes where he had to rhyme a bunch of things, and he was asking ChatGPT to rhyme all of these words in this episode where he was trying to rhyme things. ChatGPT like logged him out, or his Wi-Fi died, or something happened where he could no longer use ChatGPT, and he had to come up with it off the top of his head. But because he was using AI and he was reliant on that to like make it the rhymes good or even come up with them in the first place, he then like suffered trying to be like, oh, what rhymes with this word? I don't actually know. And that is kind of the same way of like whenever your car breaks down, then you're that thing that you were in fact reliant on, you have to figure out something else to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's easier to become reliant on AI because it is just kind of like the snake oil salesman of like, this fixes everything immediately right now.
Yeah, it's kind of like how like talking to English teachers, they would now prefer a student to turn in something that's obviously their work, even if it's like horribly deficient, because at least it's the student's work, and it's not the work of some generative AI program.
That is what my film criticism teacher said, where he was like, there were a lot of mistakes in your guys' paper, but I at least know you wrote it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Teachers would genuinely prefer a student at this point who is not turning in good work, as opposed to the student who is turning in incredibly polished and professional work, because at least in one instance, the teacher is like, okay, this person is putting in a lot of time and effort into it. They're not very good at it yet. But that's another thing that we kind of hate, though, as I'm speaking very generally about people, people don't like being bad at things. So that's one of the nice things about having pretty much all the knowledge that we have up until this point at your fingertips. We don't like being very bad at stuff.
I would argue that the use of AI is an admission that you know you're bad at something.
Well, yeah, but externally, of course.
We don't like being viewed as bad at something.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we know we're bad at it. We just don't want everyone else to know that we're bad at it too.
It feels like it'd be more healthy for get better at it on your own, and then you can, feel better about it yourself, and then everyone can also think you're not bad at it.
But health is really difficult.
Well, yeah.
like again, I keep going back to like the walking in the car metaphor, right? Like it would be healthier to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
But there are reasons that we don't do that. People like the status symbol that a car represents. People are pressed for time. They're like societal constraints. Like I need a car to get around faster, or I'm not going to wake up at 5:30 so that I can walk instead of just commuting by car, right?
I think the key difference, though, between, like, walking in a car and, like, your thoughts versus AI thoughts is that one of them is inherently deceptive. Because everybody knows you have a car and you need a car to get somewhere. Everyone doesn't know that what they're reading is you or isn't. They're just assuming that it's you, and whenever they're told it's not, then they're like, if it was a world where you had to walk everywhere and you hid a car from people and you drove somewhere, and this is a weird...
In secret.
Weird metaphor, but you drove somewhere that, like, you weren't allowed to drive, but you had to walk, but you drove somewhere and then, like, parked the car in, like, an alleyway and then went to whatever event.
Yeah, you like...
Whenever your car fails or whenever your AI fails, you have to walk there or run there, and then you're out of breath, and then people are like, I was being deceived because you were hiding something from me. Everyone knows that you have a car. Everyone might not know that you're using AI.
And I guess that's fair. Yeah. In that that makes sense to me. I hope that makes sense to everybody else. So would the preference just be that, well, that kind of goes back to like the fundamental problem that AI is solving for a lot of folks, right? Is because you're not going to out yourself as somebody who uses AI, because AI is being used in a manner to cover up the fact that whatever it is that AI is helping you out with, you don't know everything about it.
Well, it's largely been like, not that it was a crime, but it's kind of been like decriminalized in the sense that like everybody is doing it.
Yeah.
But it's not really a problem until you point it out. In like outside of academic areas where they don't have the resources to like put writing next to writing and be like, this isn't you. If you were at a workplace, everyone there uses AI and you're the only person to say that I do, then you're the only person that is like reprimanded for it.
Sure.
So it is, I don't know, it does feel like everybody is using it and then just being like, we know everyone else is using it, we're just not going to say anything.
Well, and what's unfortunate too is it's kind of like like the computer programs meant to detect AI generated cheating occurring on things like essays and stuff are themselves like AI programs. One of the worst things I would say personally about having an English degree, and having actually taken away as much from that degree as I possibly could have about how to write very well, is that I get flagged for cheating all the time. All the time. Getting accused of plagiarism all the time.
Because like your vocabulary is super big, or
It's several problems. What occurs most commonly in AI writing that most people don't think about is the use of nominalizations, which are those are verbs that have been turned into nouns uh, in the English language. They are ridiculously uncommon in normal like vernacular. That's just not how people talk. When you get up to the higher levels of academic writing, though, where you see it a lot, that's a lot of the stuff that these generative AI models are taking from. So they see this kind of word usage normalized because they're seeing so much of it in the writing that they're taking in, and they say, "Oh, that's just got to be that's got to be right." Um, the other thing is kind of less than common punctuation. Um, so you get something like an n dash, m dash, colon, semicolon. Most people cannot use any of those pieces of punctuation um, very well. So it looks kind of suspicious if you are throwing a whole bunch of semicolons in your writing, which I tend to do because I like showing off the fact that I know how to put semicolons in writings. Um, there's also like there's just a distinct flavor to how it's a vibe. It's a vibe. Um, there's way that the generative AI writes things that I dislike, but that I have seen people who write like that, right? Because somebody has to write like that, because AI is not this AI is not this being that is creating all of this stuff for its own use. It's taking other people's stuff and just repurposing it. So somebody's writing like that, um, and the AI is just copying them. Um, that's flagging a lot of people's stuff, right? If they write in a manner that sounds like AI, um, we've kind of created a chicken and the egg issue, which is that we can't tell where the origin of this writing came from at this point, because AI initially took in all of this stuff, but people never stopped writing like that. But now people can access a generative AI model that also writes like those people, right? So you're sitting there, like, if you're an educator and you're like, where did this writing come from? Is this original? Is this stolen? And if it's stolen, where did it come from originally, so I can even track down the source of it? Um, huge problem. Huge problems for educators and anybody in charge of kind of assessing the ability of writers. One thing that I thought was super interesting over time, and this goes in line with what I was talking about a global drop in IQ and a global drop in kind of competence in areas. They found out that college kids can't read Dickens. They can't read Dickens. They just can't do it.
of the Charles variety.
Yeah. For the uninitiated. English majors. English majors can't read Dickens. I'm gonna find this. And this was, you might be thinking, oh well, this was some random public university or something. This was an Ivy League school. With people with, like, average ACT and SAT scores of, like, really high, like people who were well studied and actually on paper should have known their stuff. they can't read Dickens. Um, the problem too is like I was saying with critical thinking, is that they can't. Not only can they not read the words that Dickens put on the page, but they can't take what he put on the page and then summarize them for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So not only has he written something that somebody can't read, so there's a literacy problem, but then there is a recall problem, which is that I've just had this thing put in front of me. I can't explain it to you though, which Dickens is notoriously hard to read, and he also is English, and so there's several issues with that, but this could quickly become not just a problem of, oh my gosh, there are kids that can't read like the great English literature classics,
Mm-hmm.
right? It could quickly go from these kids can't read these great English classics to like, oh my gosh, they can't take in anything and tell me what it was that they just read, right? Because it sounds very dire, and that's very like a slippery slope kind of thing. But that,
Dystopian.
yes, but that is the next that is the next stop. Is that you can't read this guy who was functionally like way up here
Mm-hmm.
in terms of writing. So his work has become inaccessible to you. But like, what is downstream of Dickens? Well, just basic like Stephen King novels are downstream from Dickens,
Mm-hmm.
right? So people can't read Stephen King, and then before long they can't read. Those were like his long form novels. They can't read his novellas. Then they can't read internet articles, right? They can't tell you what the they can't not only can they not read the internet articles, they can't tell you what those internet articles they just read are even about, which is the main problem. Putting it into your own words is the biggest problem, because the study that they conducted said that about 60% of them could actually read the passage, which is still, I mean, if we're talking about people who are accepted into Ivy League schools, 60% who can read Dickens is still kind of low. But 60% of them could actually read it. Only about 40% of them could put it back, right? And tell the person what it was that they just read in a manner that was satisfactory to the people conducting the actual research. That's the big problem with relying on AI, in my book, is that you wind up with a situation where people can read it, but they almost don't know what it was they just read, and they can't like pass that information on to like somebody else either, and they can't put it into their own words. That like they have no personal agency to put this into their own words, which is really, that is dystopian. That's very dystopian. I think we need to give the people more Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
Make sure that, no, I'm kidding. That's an exercise in cruel and unusual punishment.
Make him read Moby Dick.
Yes, that's right.
Let him figure out what circumbobulate means.
I actually read some Moby Dick for American literature. Not all of it, because again, cruel and unusual torture. But
Because it's a huge book.
oh yeah, yeah. it's it's also a sign of changing times, I think, because there used to be nothing that passed the time quite like flexing your prowess.
Well, being able to write ad
your
nauseum
writing, yeah,
because there was nothing else to do.
exactly, yeah,
So you were just like, what am I going to do? It's 1894. There's nothing else to do. I'm just going to start writing. And then he has, I don't know how many books Charles Dickens had, but he had like a weekly
yeah,
series
yeah,
that came out that
yeah.
was, he wrote a lot. So
I mean, how many people anymore are writing like on a weekly basis?
writing, probably very few. I don't know if typing falls into the same.
Well,
Writing is like putting words down, or
right.
writing is like the physical motion of a pencil pen.
Well, so studies have shown that physically writing,
Yeah.
is better for all of the things that this study that I'm talking about says that people don't get enough of, which is that lack of personal connection to the words, and then being able to turn those words into like your own words. So actually physically writing with a pencil helps with that. Typing less so. But it's not that you can't do it while typing. It's just that the way that psychologically our brains work, typing is
So
not the same kind of memory instrument.
Do you think it
as
would
a pencil.
help if ChatGPT, if its interface was like a handwriting module, as opposed to a, like
Well,
if you had to write stuff into ChatGPT?
I mean, yeah, you literally you write out the prompt you want from it in pencil, and then you put that thing in there. It might help a little. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you would still not be using your brain a lot. So
Typing is not as good as using a pencil to write, but it's significantly better than not doing any of it, right? So if you type your own essay, it's not as good as it's not as good for you in your kind of mental connections, your synapses, as writing it with a pencil, but it's a lot better than not writing any of it at all. um, the Yeah, the thing is most of what people write also is not really written with the intent to be creative, nor is it really written with the express intent to kind of show off what Dickens and a lot of the other, 19th century, even before, everyone before him, they were writing with like the express purpose to demonstrate their intellect and to show their worth and value to others. I wonder how much writing is encouraged in the same way anymore. I would wager less. It's less common now that people will accept it as usual and good when you come at them with like imagine sending a work email with circumbobulate in it. It's just not. I mean, that's not the kind of writing people are being taught to do. If anything, people might ask you to stop writing like that.
I will not.
If you ever started.
I refuse to.
But that is a good question to ask.
My tendency towards periphrasis needs to be like thrown in the face of people because it forces you to use your brain. Because you have to figure out what I'm talking about, and or I don't know, you might just ask AI what that word means, but
well, and it's not all bad, right? Like the thing is that one of the big problems that this kind of functional illiteracy is even one of the reasons it's even begun
Mm-hmm.
is because, and this predates AI, is that we have kind of as a society stopped teaching it. It's just not it's not very helpful anywhere where people are finding a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to send Dickens in a work email, pretty much. So why teach Dickens at all? If you are going to, so therefore Dickens becomes like inaccessible, and eventually all literary works become inaccessible. In that sense, though, there's actually something really, really helpful about AI, because it might be the only teacher that you have that is willing to explain to you in detail what the heck he's saying. You know what I mean? If you choose to use it like that.
I don't know how good of a teacher it would be, because like it wouldn't be able to respond with like I think some of the sensitivities that a teacher would need. It would just be like, this is what it means, and then you figure that out.
Yes.
Because you could only ask it, like, it would explain, like, this word means this, and this word and he's talking about this here.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't be, I don't know, I don't think it would be able to form any worthwhile thought other than, like, an equation almost of, like,
Well, right.
this equals this.
Yeah. The onus would still very much be on you,
Mm-hmm.
as with anything else, to educate yourself. But you could just use it as a sort of translation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could use it as a sort of translator or like an interpreter. Because even though it is technically in the same language, the kind of vocabulary is just not. It doesn't click for people anymore. So even though it is English, it almost sounds and reads like something else. So I guess I'm just playing devil's advocate, though,
Mm-hmm.
just to say that, you know, if the individual wanted to put the onus on themselves to go out and learn more than they had access to, I think one of the craziest things to me is the democratization of knowledge, which is this idea that, you know, public libraries now have computers with access to the internet, with access to these generative AI models,
Mm-hmm.
right? And libraries are free. In theory, and also functional illiteracy is up, but illiteracy in general, globally, worldwide, is like the lowest it's ever been. So, plus, there are so many TV shows, newspapers, good works of journalism kind of everywhere that people know more now than they ever have.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of the problem with that is you know, not a huge it's not a huge problem. It's good that everybody is the most educated they've ever been. That knowledge is the most accessible it's ever been to the most people that have ever had access to it. But it's so readily accessible that people, again, they don't actually have to put it into their own words.
Mm-hmm.
They just have access to it. They just have access to it, and if we're thinking about it in the most optimistic sense, that would mean that they would all learn everything there was to learn. But, you know, as you said, people do tend to, I don't know. I disagree that people on balance are like lazy, but there are some things that we get lazy about.
Yeah.
And so in cases like these, you do wind up with kind of all the information in the entire world at your fingertips. And most people don't actually gravitate towards learning everything there is to learn. Because that actually puts, again, the onus on them to know all of that. And some people will do it. Some people will certainly do that. And learn kind of everything that they're interested in learning, and even things that they're not interested in learning, and they will challenge themselves, and they'll be like, man, like, I don't know this and I don't know that, and I kind of feel dumb almost because there is just so much stuff that, like, I can't even, like, I've got to work through this because I don't know what this means. Like, what does this mean? What are they even talking about? And some people will go through the time and the effort to make that work for themselves, and then some people won't.
Yeah, which is what I kind of meant by people being lazy, is that a lot of people are doing like cost benefit analysis in their head,
And they're saying, this ain't worth my time.
well, they're like, this is what I'm going to put into it and this is what I'm going to get out of it. And realistically, I don't need to know Charles Dickens to work wherever I work in a corn factory, therefore I don't need to know Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
If something comes up where I do need to, I can have AI bring up this one little tiny information so that I can use that information for like the 10 seconds that I need it and then put it away because I'll never need it again in my life. So it's like laziness of not wanting to put effort into like find information because you don't think you're going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah. Is that why we see a lot of people saying that like education and like critical thinking is just less important now? Because it just actually is? Or is there still some merit to what teachers say?
I don't think it's less important, but I think people might view it as less important because it kind of, if you squint your eyes hard enough, you can like look at an education and look at ChatGPT and be like, well, the end results are exactly the same because I'm getting the information that I want via both paths.
Yeah.
But I don't think you really do because this is really, we're getting into like some, like the friendship is the friends we made on the way or whatever. But
yeah, the real treasure,
the real journey, or
yes.
But I think that's
the real destination is the journey.
Yeah, I think that is kind of true here because your brain is a muscle.
Yeah,
and it's a thing that you need to work out.
Yeah.
Or you lose it, like a bicep or a calf or something.
It is a muscle.
I know, but if you don't use it, you lose it. And
sure.
If ChatGPT is the one that's thinking, and in an actual education, you're the one that's thinking, you might get to the same result of having that information at the end, but your brain is underdeveloped to where you might have that information, but you might not be able to do the same thing with it had you actually been, like, educated to do stuff with it.
Yeah, it's all stored. It's all stored off-site.
Mm-hmm.
When you kind of make ChatGPT responsible for all of your knowledge and stuff, that means that everything worth knowing is stored kind of off-site.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have access to it without ChatGPT or without a generative AI model.
But that's kind of, and I feel like this is like a parent statement or something of like, you need to know how to do things the old-fashioned way so that whenever the newfangled technology blows up, you can know how to do stuff, which I think is somewhat not fair because it's like you should know how to interact with new technology because you're going to exist with it and you need to not be afraid of it, but you also, I do think you need to know how to do some things the old-fashioned way because like if everything is stored off-site in this AI model, and you're like, oh, I need to remember this pertinent piece of information that's not stored in my brain at all, and ChatGPT explodes because all the water is gone from the planet and
Yep.
they can't cool it anymore.
They sucked all the
It's
the
all
water
gone.
out. It's all gone.
They burned through the gas supply. Everything's gone. We're in the barren wastelands of Mad Max.
Can I have all my computer components back if ChatGPT is gone?
I think if we're in the apocalypse, we're past the point of you needing a computer. But if ChatGPT violently explodes and then you need that pertinent piece of information, you can't get it, and you don't know how to like function in a way to get it because you're like, I don't know who I talked to. I've only ever talked to this AI that gave it to me, and now it's not here to give it to me, so I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Like you wound up with you wound up with the product of the formula, but you actually have no idea how the formula is even composed.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and now you can't even get
yeah.
the formula because
Yeah.
the thing that would have given it to you exploded violently.
Oh, right. Yeah. Rarely when we're asking, I mean, I know I'm guilty of this. When I'm asking ChatGPT for something, rarely am I asking it, I'm asking it for the end result,
Mm-hmm.
which at the end of the day is probably products of years and years and years of academic study, or anecdotal experience from whoever bothered to document it. Very rarely am I asking ChatGPT, tell me the steps these people went through to figure this stuff out, right? Mm-hmm. Usually I'm just like, what was the end result? There is something kind of wrong with that, yeah. That actually, what you were talking about actually makes me think of this phenomenon called post-traumatic growth, which is not post-traumatic stress. Mm-hmm. It's post-traumatic growth. So post-traumatic growth is what happens when we experience struggles, and we become more successful by surviving those struggles. And that might also explain our desire to avoid struggles, as because it feels good not to have to struggle, because struggling sucks. But if you don't do it, one of the problems is that you very well might become less successful than you otherwise would have been, because surviving through struggles actually increases your chances of success.
Mm-hmm. I also think it might make you more like susceptible to failure whenever you actually like do fail, because AI can't do everything for you. So if you actually need to do something like changing a tire that AI actually can't help you with, like physically,
yeah,
then you're like, I don't know how to change this tire, and this is the first time that I'm failing because I've had AI help me succeed every single step of my life until now, mm-hmm. and now I don't know how to handle this internally of not being good at something, which goes back to the whole thing of like, we're going to get ChatGPT to make it look like I'm good at something so everyone else thinks I'm good at something. But internally, if you know that you're not good at something, and then you finally have to like face the fact that you're not good at something because the thing that was helping you can no longer help you,
yeah,
then you're just like, now I have to face failing, and it's kind of like, instead of failing every step along the way and taking it in like little microbursts, you have to take it all at once of like, I'm not really good at like any of this stuff because I had to get assistance with it.
Mm-hmm. So
can I say?
Oh, I don't know. You've said it twice. 3 times. Anyway, I'm gonna read you a little slice of Tedeschi et al., which they wrote this mm-hmm. study on post-traumatic growth theory, that basically says the following 5 areas are what post-traumatic growth really, really helps somebody with. Appreciation of life, relating to others, personal strength, new possibilities, and spiritual, existential, or philosophical change. The Hindus, Buddhists, Islam, and all other kinds of faith contain elements of the potentially transformative power of suffering. So, does it feel like those 5 areas are lacking in today's world? Because I kind of read that and think, there's not a whole there's not a whole lot of, you know, um, based off of, you know, when you hear people are dissatisfied about their politicians, they're dissatisfied about the economy, they're dissatisfied with how much money they have, who they're married to, how much of a brat their kids are, you know. Um, you know, their group of friends are just the worst. They don't like where they live. They don't like where they work. Um, and that goes all the way out from the most individual, all the way out to like the most global, right? There's this kind of sense that people are really dissatisfied, which is really interesting because um, everyone who wrote this study would suggest that paradoxically, the way to gain more appreciation for everything that you have is to suffer more. Which I think is, I think that, I think people probably don't want to hear that though. When they say, "Wow, I am fed up with all of this stuff." Well, buddy, you just gotta suffer more.
Yeah.
You gotta endure more bad things. Um, I don't think that is that. I don't think that is the elixir, the silver bullet that people want. When they say, "Wow, like I'm really unhappy with how everything is going," you know. We've heard of all sorts of like, you know, self-help. Um, Rarely will the self-help books or the self-help experts ever tell you, boy, you got to struggle more. You got to suffer more. You got to endure more hardship. I mean, that's I don't think they would sell a lot of copies.
No, but I think they'd be more accurate.
Yeah. Kind of like the I don't think the politicians would get reelected if they told people that. Well, I think you got to suffer more. Personally, I think you'd be more happy with your politicians if you just suffered a little more.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd get reelected.
No.
So anyway, we have unearthed some really just amazingly positive and optimistic things.
Is that what that was?
That's what I mean that's what I said.
Sure.
Yeah. So some really positive and optimistic things have come to light as a result of
Yes.
this episode of the Untitled Summer Podcast.
Yeah.
And so basically suffer more and endure more hardship, and eventually you'll be all right.
What a message to leave this one off with.
Yeah. Well, it's summer, you know.
Which is exactly the time you should be telling people.
It's exactly the time you should be telling people to suffer and endure hardship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got on some break from whatever you're doing, and now.
Well, I have actually had teachers at Angelo State that, you know, the university will not, you know, they're not going to put in big bold letters on their website, "We're here to make you suffer to grow you as a person," because I don't think a lot of people would attend a university where that was their.
No, I think they just call it academic growth.
Yes, but
I feel like there's an asterisk on that of like academic growth requires you to not be good at something for a minute so that
sure.
you can finally get to being good at it.
yeah, endure the process of being bad at first and then working really hard to bring that up.
Yeah. But I think that does you more benefits in the long run, because back to like your brain being a muscle,
Yeah.
whenever you work out a muscle, it gets stronger. But also, if you stop working out a muscle, whenever you go back to working out, it takes less time for that muscle to like redevelop into where it was. And your brain is kind of the same way. That if you know how to do this critical thinking stuff, even if you stop doing it for a minute and then you come back, you are more likely to be able to do the critical thinking more than someone who just never done it in the first place, because you're not exactly starting from the same spot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So think critically more.
Yes. Do more hard things.
And I not suffer more apparently over the summer.
That does sound kind of extreme.
Yeah, it sounds rather blunt. Do things that challenge you.
Well, now hold on. Is suffering here? I'm gonna find Merriam-Webster. I'm gonna.
I don't think Oxford or Webster is gonna tell you that it's a good thing.
Well, they won't tell me anything but the objective truth.
Well, they're gonna tell you that it's a long-term chronic bad thing.
Pain.
So maybe don't suffer.
Synonyms are distress, misery, agony. List continues.
Do something that's intellectually stimulating.
Yes. Well, unpleasantness. Endure unpleasantness.
I feel like that's a spectrum.
That seems a little less. That's not misery or agony.
Yeah.
Or pain.
No, those are pretty severe.
Unpleasantness sounds a little better. I think we go with that one.
What? Do something unpleasant this summer?
Or don't. I mean, free will is a thing.
I think most people would choose to exercise not doing something unpleasant.
Well, sure. But I mean that is because you were talking about academic growth. That is a thing that, I mean, you can't tell me that every single class that you ever took was totally pleasant and stress-free.
No, they weren't.
Yeah. And they were completely free of all kind of like, well, I don't want to say any class made you miserable, but, you know, where there's some miserable parts, I mean, you know.
Yes.
I think most people would just point like, yes.
Sorry, was that too fast? Am I I think everybody that's ever been through college has never been like, oh, it's 100% peachy. I enjoyed it the entire way through.
Especially studying for that final. Boy, I wish I could do that again.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think people normally do that.
Well, okay, that kind of reinforces my point though, that kind of doing unpleasant things can actually you can come through the other side of that as a stronger, more productive person.
Yes.
Yeah. Anecdotal experience, I would say, confirms that. Even if it's kind of like it feels like completely like wrong advice to give somebody. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying, like you're not gonna find that advice from.
Well, it seems counterintuitive, but
totally and completely, yeah.
But I think it makes sense if you think about it, because I mean,
a lot of people did spend time thinking about it.
I know, but if you think about it from like a philosophical standpoint, whatever that word is, like it's kind of like you need the bad to recognize the good. So nobody should want somebody to go through bad stuff.
No.
But that bad stuff does help frame and define what is not bad stuff and also what is good stuff.
Sure. And to think, we have to have a miserable experience at this institution and we pay them for it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy to think about.
Could we leave that in?
I think that's allowed. We're not gonna get taken off air for that. Are we? Do you have anything to add? Not only is it an inanimate object, but his microphone's not even plugged in, so.
That's how you know this episode wasn't written by AI, because it's all over the place.
We don't even have a camera operator. It's just that one. It's been that one the whole time.
Yeah.
Real amateur hour.
What did I say at the beginning? A title as unpolished as the podcast it named?
Yes, of course.
That should be the tagline.
So anyway, a podcast is unpolished as the name. The Untitled Summer Podcast. To justify my work here during the summer.
Yep.
Because content production.
Yup.
Amazing. Well, we'll see everybody next time.